This is the Lumia 1020, which is still a boss phone when it comes to the camera, and it's going up against the 830, which is a newcomer on the block and promises to give you a fantastic experience for a high-end price. But which one is worth it to buy, seeing as though you could probably get the 1020 for cheaper nowadays? You can have a look in this video. But I think, first things first, we need to talk about the actual form factor of each one. And without question, I do prefer the 830's form factor, which is more conventional, and it just feels a lot less bulky and very nicely designed, whereas the 1020 is not terrible by any stretch of the imagination, but it does have that bulge obviously on the back, and it's a little bit chunkier as well in general, although it is a bit smaller obviously, so it's easier to get your thumb around it, but I definitely do prefer the build of the 830 when comparing the two. It is a little bigger, but it does feel much more sophisticated in the hand. They both have glance abilities, which is very nice. With the glance ability on the 1020 is a bit more basic than the one on the 830. With the 830 you get all sorts of information coming up, such as your weather, etc., whereas it's a bit more basic on my 1020 anyway. Maybe there's different levels of updates to be pushed out on the 1020s, but for me, I do prefer the additional information that's coming up on the 830. But I do like the fact that both of them do have glance at the end of the day, as well as a double tap to wake up, which is very nice on both of them. Don't get that with the 930. But in terms of the actual screens of both of them, you are looking at slightly different technologies, with the 1020 coming in with a very beautiful AMOLED display, which still impresses me to this day for being very nice in terms of the colours, and it really makes Windows Phone pop. And it's not a full HD panel, but it's it looks really pixel dense. It's at 332 ppi, and it's 4.5 inches across. My only real complaint with it is that the bezels are very huge, for modern day phones, so you're not getting the maximum screen real estate for this size of phone. But I'm still very happy with the display technology, and it also comes with the clear black technology as well, which is Nokia's proprietary technology to maximize the contrast level. And I don't know if you can make that out, but if you look at the WhatsApp icon on both of them, you can really see how black it is compared to the 830, which is a little grayer. So that's one of the reasons why I do miss my Super AMOLEDs when going to an LCD panel. But on the other hand, you're getting a LCD IPS display on the 830, and with this one it's coming in at 294 ppi, so a little less high, a little less dense, should we say, but not too different really. I think both are considered Retina by Apple's standard. and you know, I'm a big fan of this display. I think it's very good and offers very nice viewing angles and colour reproduction. The colours aren't quite as you know, as poppy as you'd get on an AMOLED, but that's just to be expected. And the blacks aren't quite as deep, but I do like the display still, and I think that because it is an LCD IPS, it does perform well outside, like in very well lit environments. But in terms of my personal preference, I do like the AMOLED display on the 1020. I just wish it was a little bit bigger and in line with the kind of modern phones. I hope if the 1030 rumours are true, that they do bring out a Super AMOLED display again, but a little bit bigger with smaller bezel. That would be a dream for me. But moving on from the displays, the phones are rocking different processors. Snapdragon 400 in the 830 versus a dual-core S4 Crate in the 1020, which is obviously considered ancient now when it comes to technology. But you know, I wouldn't count it out when it comes to the raw performance of it. We can see if we can see any performance gains from having like the S4 versus the newer Snapdragon 400, which is based on the A7 architecture, which supposedly is a bit slower, but we can have a go anyway. Can be a little bit difficult because of the hump on the back, which makes the phone spin like anything, but we can have a look nevertheless. So if we go to the top, and then both are connected to my Wi-Fi. So looks like the 830's failed to render the page properly on that one, but the 1020 didn't have the same problem, which is quite strange. Let's go back to the home page. No, not all the way back. Let's try a different link. Hopefully we don't get the same error again. So 1020 seemed to load the page a bit quicker there, but both of them seem to be struggling a little bit. And I've noticed that it seems to be registering touches when I'm not actually touching it. I'm just scrolling, see if it loads the comments at the same time. How about different website? You can see that the search seems to be integrated with Cortana on the 830. So it looked a bit quicker there on the 830 and seems to have loaded everything. 1020 up and ready. Can't really see any decisive results from that, so let's try powering him down and then back on again, see which one comes on. And turns off the first. I give it to the Lumia 1020 for that. Still waiting for the 830. Still waiting. There we go. 10 years later. Let's boot them both back up again at the same time. So 830 seems to have come up a bit quicker, but that's probably because it's not carrier branded. So, but it did take a hell of a long time to shut down. But we can try some apps opening. A bit quicker there on the 830. About the same. Again, about the same. It's virtually identical. About the same again. Can't see any differences at all. It's a little bit quicker there on the 830. Not much difference though. I'd give that the 1020 just a little bit. This isn't the same app. They look like the same app, but they're not. So, which one is it? Let's get rid of it on here first. And then go back to it. So a little bit quicker on the 830, but as you can see, there doesn't seem to be much difference between the actual performance. I was expecting the 1020 to do a lot better. One area which I do think it would do a bit better is the multitasking because of the extra RAM. Here's a 2 gig RAM as opposed to 1 gig, but they both seem to be handling it quite well, whatever I'm throwing at it. You do hear an audible click with the 1020 when you do fire up the camera, which is very satisfying. So just playing a bit of Asphalt Airborne to see how the graphics are. Now it does look a bit glitchy, if I'm to be honest. Not 100% smooth, but it is a very demanding game. Frame rate is a bit slow. And now we're giving it a go on the 1020, same game. And I have to say, the graphics do look a bit smoother, only a little bit. Maybe it's the additional RAM. So according to my eyes, it looked as if the game ran a bit smoother on the Lumia 1020. It also installed a hell of a lot quicker. You know, I was sat here waiting forever for the game to finish installing on the 830. So I think you are going to get a little bit more grunt from the 1020, and it's Snapdragon dual core versus the quad core Snapdragon 400. But it's not, you know, amazingly different, and there are other areas which the 830 makes up for that, such as the fact you can expand the storage up to 128 gigs. Bearing in mind you can get two different types of the 1020, one which supports 32 gigs and the other which supports 64 gigs, and this is a 64 gig model. So it's quite a lot of storage there, you know, not going to have too many problems, but it's still not as much as you can get on the 830 if you do purchase one of those SanDisk 128 gig cards. And I would much prefer an SD card rather than the built-in storage. They both support 4G LTE, so no issues there. Latest Wi-Fi, latest Bluetooth, and they are both quite heavy featured when it comes to the connectivity, etc. And obviously there's another difference in regards to the camera, which both of them are sporting their Lumia cameras, but the one on the 1020 is more higher powered one. It's 40 odd megapixel, and it does have the xenon flash as well, and the 830 with its 10 megapixel one, which is a PureView ZEISS one, which you know, both of them going to be very solid for your photography. And I did take some pictures out and about with both of them, and to be honest, I'd have to say that I didn't really notice too much of a difference between them. I was expecting the 1020 to stomp on the 830, but you know, you're getting very detailed, crisp shots on both of them. And you know, I think anyone who takes photos with their smartphone will be happy with either of them. But if you may be able to notice some differences from the like the bokeh effect, etc., but I can't. Where I do notice some differences, however, is the low light. With the 830 looks a bit more grainy in the low light pictures, and it's when it goes, it's okay when it's like medium light, but when it goes really low, it seems to introduce some grain to it, which you don't get so much of that on the 1020, but what you do get is quite a greenish kind of tinge to the photos, which is a bit ugly. You do get much more natural colours on the 830 when you're doing the low light ones. But you know, overall they're both very solid when it comes to the photography. I did some video as well, which I can show you now. So yesterday's flagship versus today's mid-range. So we're both on full HD with autofocus, and everything else just left as standard. You can try the autofocus, see how they handle it. Looked a bit quicker on the 830 there. Let's try that again. Very impressed with the focusing speed on the 830. So yeah, looks quite good there for the 830. But which one looks better? It's up to you. I think the focusing's a bit better on the 830, for to be honest. It seems to be able to focus very quickly at like short range and long range. You do get some exposure problems now and again with the 1020 as well. But in regards to the actual, overall video footage, they seem to be about comparative. But other than that, moving away from the camera, you are getting a removable battery on the 830 because you can pop off the back, and within there is a very nice 2200 mAh battery, which is removable. Very nice. On the 1020 you are getting a 2000 mAh, which is arguably, to me, a bit underpowered or anemic. It would have been nice if they'd have put like a 2300 in there, which would have made it last a bit longer. But in terms of the battery life, I'd say that it will do you fine as long as you're not hammering the camera too much. I've found that when you do take a lot of photos and pictures with it, you will need to be charging at the end of the day. Whereas the efficiency of the Snapdragon 400 processor, coupled with the higher capacity, as well as the removable nature of it, I think this is your road warrior device compared to the 1020, and you'll get, I think, more use out of it. In terms of the software, it seems that the 830 feels a little bit more mature to me, as if it's running a slightly later version of Windows Phone 8.1. With the 1020 is updated, but I think because mine is a 64 gig model, which O2 released, it doesn't feel quite as up to date as the 830 that I've got. So I'm not getting Cortana still on the 1020, but you get that on the 830. But there's other things as well, which if we go into the settings, for example, go on the settings on this one. For example, you can control the brightness a lot better on the 830. I've got it on low at the moment, but if you got two different brightness settings. You got the main one at the top, but then you got this other one where you can really dynamically set what you want the brightness to be, which is very cool. And it's based upon each level. If it's on the medium level, then you can have it on medium. If it's on the high level, you can have it on really high. But you don't get that with my 1020. If I go into these settings, you can see the options not there, so that's a bit annoying, and it will be blinding you at night. But there are some regressions, if you ask me, with the 830, such as the fact that if you go to Internet Explorer, for example, and then go to settings, you can't choose Google as your search provider. but you can still do that on the 1020. So I can, select Google there, but I don't get that on the 830, which is a bit annoying if you ask me. I'd like to be able to set whoever I want, kind of thing. I don't like it when I'm getting forced into something. But there are some other little differences you'll find between them in terms of software, where I think the 830 just feels a little bit more up to date, and I hope Denim does reach the 1020. I'm not sure if they've committed to that, but that's how I'm finding it at the moment. But they're both excellent devices nevertheless. I'm still a big fan of the Lumia 1020. It did push things forward in regards to the camera technology on smartphones, and from some of the mock-ups I've seen on the internet of the 1030, it looks like a mixture of these two devices. Like, you've got the kind of back of the 830, but the massive sensor of the 1020. So maybe these two will get together, get married and have kids, and then we'll get the perfect Windows phone. But we can only wait and hope. I hope you found the video informative if you're looking at these two devices, and if you did, hit the subscribe button or like it, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.